Hello everybody and welcome back, and it is good to be back. A few days off and feeling a bit better about things, so of course back to work. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to update you all about the Indianapolis. Now for those of you who remembered my Indianapolis review, you probably remember me not being super impressed by the ship. Yeah, she had good guns and everything, but I complained a lot about the fact that she was super fragile. However, I did mention that there was possibly some kind of armor bug or there's something wrong with her. So then I talked to the developers, and they confirmed that there were indeed errors in the protection for the Indianapolis, as well as the fact that she sat too high in the water. So I think as of the last major patch, so this is 0.5.6, or maybe the minor patch before that, they have fixed the Indianapolis's protection, and she sits now lower a bit in the water. So this has drastically changed what the Indianapolis is as a ship. In my ship review, I said, well, the way to play her is to play her kind of like an American Molotov, and that implies a lot of sitting back and shooting stuff. Now that her protection is actually better, some things changed, namely how you play her. So what I'm hopefully going to do in this particular video is to show, I guess, the differences in playstyle and what the Indianapolis is capable of right now. And for those of you who have been waiting for a Tier 7 premium American cruiser to replace the Atlanta, well, you found yourself one here. The Indianapolis is a really good ship right now. In the event that you are playing in a same tier game, so meaning you're playing a Tier 7 tops game and you're top tier, you can now play the Indianapolis much more aggressively than before. That means you can actually be a little bit further ahead, and now you can actually take fire without worrying that you're just going to get melted by random citadels from shells hitting you. This by no means, by the way, means that you should just go out there and bait battleships to try to shoot at you and still try to resist 16-inch guns. That's still not a good idea. But she is at least more durable when she has to deal with other ships. And so, especially in this kind of battle where I am top tier, I am going to play much more aggressively. You'll see me basically on the front lines, engaging the enemy cruisers. If you happen to end up in a bottom tier game where you're the only tier 7 or a few of the tier 7s and there's a lot of tier 8s and 9s, then you're going to have to play a little bit more conservatively, and you can't just do what I'm doing right here, which is jumping out here and trying to pick fights on the front lines. So to sort of summarize your options, if you are top tier, then you can play much more aggressively. If you're bottom tier, you're going to still have to treat the ship like an American Molotov. You're going to be more of a supporting role. So you're going to be with your battleships, lending them AA, and of course providing whatever fire you can. So against these tier 6 and 7 cruisers, it is absolutely no problem at all. The Indianapolis does have absolutely phenomenal main guns, and they are able to rack up those citadel hits if you aim well. The Aoba earlier melted, I think, in about 3 salvos. The Cleveland's going to melt pretty quickly as well. And, oh yes, the other thing, the radar. The radar is going to catch lower tier destroyers off guard. It might not sound like much. If you look at the radar, you're like, the radar isn't all that special. Yeah, but you're talking about a lot of destroyers at the lower tier where they don't exactly have the best concealment, and they don't have the best captains, and so this radar can and will catch ships off guard, and once you catch them, they have very little that they can do about it. So far so good. 2 cruisers down and haven't really taken all that much damage. This is not to say, however, that the Indianapolis is now so good that she just is able to resist loads and loads of damage. That's not really the case. While she's really good at resisting heavy cruiser armor piercing, light cruiser armor piercing, she's still not one very good against battleship armor piercing. So battleship armor piercing is still really going to hurt, and you got to really be careful of that. But then that's pretty much all the cruisers, so that's kind of a self-explanatory point. But the Indianapolis, even right now, still feels strangely vulnerable to rapid fire 152 millimeter guns that you see on a lot of light cruisers. So, for example, like the Russian cruisers, like the Chapayev and like the Shores, or things like the Cleveland. And these high explosive shells, they seem to do pretty solid damage. And weirdly enough, with my experience playing with her, she seems to lose the #2 turret a lot. And it's just one of those quirks about this particular ship. My recommendation, therefore, if you want to deal with these 152 millimeter gun-armed cruisers, is to stay a little bit further away and to really use your superior AP performance to destroy them while you're still at range. Don't let them get too close, otherwise they will hurt you. Another thing to keep in mind about the Indianapolis in particular is that this is a ship that, even though she's better now and the protection's better and she's better able to resist damage, the Indianapolis still needs to be around its friends. So that means you should still be with other ships. You can be now with other cruisers, forming a long-range supporting cruiser to help them, but you shouldn't be by yourself. If you're by yourself and you get caught out there by 2 other cruisers and you're alone, you're not likely to make it out of that engagement alive. You still need your friends to occasionally take the attention away from you so you can go about doing your job. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that the Indianapolis's main guns, while they're very, very good, their rate of fire is, well, 15-second reloads. And that's not exactly a superior rate of fire over anything. So you're going to find that your guns, they're accurate, they do good damage, but they don't fire all that quickly, and you can get overwhelmed if you're by yourself with no support. So while in the original review, I'm like, you should be sticking with your battleships and really sort of be that sniping, hide in the back cruiser, now you can be that supporting cruiser for like a bunch of cruisers. So instead of being completely at the back, you can now be just a little bit behind other cruisers. And that brings you closer to the action, where you're more likely able to use your guns. As with many other U.S. cruisers, including the Des Moines, islands are going to be your best friend in a lot of situations. The Indianapolis is very good at hiding behind an island, sort of bow in, and just lobbing shots over and hitting ships in the distance. A lot of U.S. cruisers are actually quite good at this particular task, and if you do it correctly, if you do it incorrectly, you're very ineffective. But if you do it correctly, pick the right spots, you can have a pretty large impact on the battle, because you're going to be able to take away certain areas from the enemy team. You're able to annoy them with damage, because you are able to hit good damaging salvos. Against a broadside Colorado earlier with only 6 shots, I was approaching in one salvo almost 7,000 damage, which immediately caused the Colorado to sort of back off a little bit. And that allowed me to just stay in the middle, and this was on, I believe, Two Brothers. I was able to stay in the middle, hide behind one of the islands, and suppress that Colorado. The Colorado was like, oh, I'm constantly taking fire and trying to get away from me, while at the same time, because he's trying to get away from me, couldn't really engage anybody else on my team. So islands are very, very good friends if you happen to be in an Indianapolis. AA on the ship is alright. It's good for self-defense. It's okay for providing some defense to battleships. If you are escorting them, you are able to disrupt aircraft when they come into attack. But don't really treat the Indianapolis's AA as anything super special. She's just very, very sort of standard U.S. cruiser AA. In terms of detectability, the Indianapolis, I think, has an edge over the Pensacola, and it's a very substantial edge, actually. It allows the Indianapolis to fire its guns at long range, and then depending on the situation, either continue firing or just simply say, yeah, I don't like that situation that's developing over there. Maybe there's too many battleships. You can just stop firing, wait 20 seconds, fall off the detect, and relocate yourself to a better position. So that's one of the things I really actually liked about the Indianapolis. You actually have that choice, where with some of the other cruisers, like, for example, Pensacola, after you fire, you really might not have the choice, as the enemy team might be able to just close you down rapidly. One other thing I should mention about the Indianapolis is if you run into an enemy cruiser and maybe you're lower HP or maybe you're in a bad spot, it's still better with the Indianapolis to just stop, point your bow in, and engage with your 2 forward guns. Whatever you do, don't run away. I had a situation earlier against the New Orleans where I tried to run away, and the phrase "stop running, you only die tired" absolutely applied. It was just the most futile thing I've ever done, and I thought, like, after I thought about it, I was like, no, I should have just stopped, bow in, and I would have done so much better in that particular engagement. So with the Indianapolis, don't be afraid to just stop, point your bow in, and engage. Running away is just not going to work at times. Back to the battle, and there is the enemy Pensacola, who is trying to close in, bow in, so that's smart, trying to use its 2 forward guns. And again, when it's bow in versus bow in, the Indianapolis, I think, has an edge. It's just got that 1 extra shell for every salvo, and it just works better, I think. And of course, with better armor, you definitely have that advantage over a Pensacola. One other thing, though, is that with American cruisers, don't be afraid to fire lots and lots of armor piercing. American armor piercing has a way to penetrate even pretty angled ships. So this Pensacola here, you'll see what actually happens. In one of the salvos I put into him, he was actually reasonably angled, actually. Not this one. I think this one it was... Actually, was it this one? Let's see here. Yeah, so it was this one. Like he was reasonably angled, and there you go, still able to get through there. So American armor-piercing shells have a pretty good chance of penetrating even ships that are somewhat angled. Again, of course, if the enemy ship is only showing you a bow, that might not necessarily be the best thing to do. However, if there's just... yeah, as long as there's something, it will still penetrate. Alright, so there we go. Pensacola was finished off there by the CV, but I already collected most of the damage, so I'm okay. Shores, 14 kilometers, 10-second flight time. Not the easiest shot to make at range, but I'm still going to be able to bag them in, I think, 1 or 2 salvos here. Let me see here. The first one, I think I hit him. I didn't do any damage, but I took out a gun, so yay for me. I switched over to high explosive because I figured that HE was probably going to work better. All I had to do was land a few shots with high explosive, and it would be over. First salvo went completely wild because I suck at times at aiming. Yeah, I have my potato days as well when it comes to aiming. But this one is going to be beautiful. Going to hit perfectly on the shores, and I'm going to pick up kill number 4. And that does it for this battle, actually. I think I had 13 Citadel hits at the end for a total of 84,805 damage. There we go. That's the number. A good number of credits, good amount of experience. I think it was top on the team in terms of base experience, 1989. So overall, very, very good. And if I had to make a recommendation, if you want a tier 7 American cruiser, I would say definitely get the Indianapolis. She's a really, really solid ship now. She still has her quirks, but if you know how to mitigate them, she will perform fabulously. Anyways, folks, that wraps up the update for the Indianapolis. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I'm looking forward to talking to all of you again soon.